Welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
And I'm Josh.
And I'm cleaning up the table here.
Are you done?
I'm done enough. Have been working on the Mandalorian. What's the name of the brand that these
Bandai?
Bandai model. They're super cool, but I've had enough of him.
Next.
Yes, I'm done.
I'll be done here momentarily. Once I figure out these. There are a lot of different hand permutations that you have.
Yes.
They have molded hands to hold the rifle, to hold the blaster, to hold the darksaber, to hold the spear. And they're all over the place. And they give you... I'm looking now. I think we can make another Mandalorian from all the spare pieces that it gives you. Lots of COD. Lots of COD pieces happening here.
Comes with extra CODs.
Where's this guy go?
So last time... We're recording 2 weeks in a row. How about that? Last time.
If we do it one more time, it'll be a streak.
Whoa! A hat trick, even. That's like a sports
That
word.
is a sports word. Look at you. I was very proud of you right there.
Thanks.
Now, do you know what sport that comes from?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Hockey. Anyway, so Mr. Mandalorian here comes with far too many weapons and far too many hands and extra helmets and extra arm pieces and lots of things. And so I've made him. I remember feeling the same way when I did the other Bandai models. It's like, first you're like, man, this is so detailed. Wow, it's really cool. And you get to the second arm and you're like, come on.
Enough already.
You don't need that many pieces. So anyway, here's Mr. Mandalorian. Old in. He's done. And I'm going to do a little tiny set because I forgot to bring another set. And this is the Lego 40486 Adidas.
Oh, good old 40486.
Yeah, the Adidas shoe, but not the big shoe. This is the micro version that was like a free little... When you buy stuff from Lego.com, when you get over a certain amount, like I think it's over $100 or I don't know, they throw in extra little sets that are exclusive.
Well, la-di-da.
No. And this is one of those sets. They're usually things that you don't care about and you wouldn't buy, which I
We
guess
keep
is
them around here for guests.
Exactly. Or when we forget. And there's very few pieces to this.
Well,
And
if you're
it's
going
a
to start
shoe.
a new one, I think Din is done. Din's done.
Din's done.
He doesn't hold the rifle
Oh, look at
very
this.
well.
I didn't pay attention to the minifig that's with this. He is a shoebox. He's an Adidas shoebox. And he comes with a little boombox and a microphone. I don't know why,
He's happening.
but he's real cool. So, what's been going on since last time?
Since last time. It's weird because we don't record regularly. I don't remember what last time was.
Last time we kind of caught up on all of the different things that we had seen. We talked about Batman.
Oh, yeah. And how we surprisingly liked Batman.
Yeah.
I got to play D&D again. With some amazing people from the Maker Alliance.
Awesome.
What's the Maker Alliance, Bob?
The Maker Alliance is a group of fantastic people who support us here at I Like to Make Stuff, and they are a community. So we've got a very strong Discord server. Lots of people hang out, and lots of people. What?
Please excuse the technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. You can blame it on Anthony. Anyway, the Maker Alliance is a really awesome group of people. They are doing something really cool. In addition to D&D, they've just started doing D&D nights. I guess once a month.
Once a month.
That's the plan.
Yep.
I didn't play last time because I had soccer stuff, kid stuff to take care of. But I'm definitely going to try to make one of them because I think it would be super cool. Sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm excited to hear more about it. But they are doing something cool in addition to D&D. They have created, separately from us, a group of them have created a summer camp. Like a weekend summer camp experience thing.
Yep.
And it's for Maker Alliance members only. You can only get the information about it if you're part of the Alliance. But they've done all this stuff without us and have asked permission and asked, for support and stuff to whatever degree we want, which is really cool. And they are being very thoughtful about it. And that is also very cool. Oh, look we can frame the Lego guys with the Mando things. Yeah, he'll fall over. And I just think it's really cool that they are taking initiative to build that community even stronger. We're going to be a part of the thing, but they are doing it.
Yep.
It's all them.
Yep.
Which I think is really neat. So if you want to join that crew, if you want to get the perks, like you get discount codes for our stuff, you get free plans, you get we do a monthly hangout, video hangout. other stuff, see videos early, all that. But the Discord and the community, I think, is really the thing that has become very worthwhile for a bunch of people. So if you want to do that, go to, what is it? I like to make stuff.com/join. I'm so good at this. And you can join up in a couple of different ways. D&D.
Yeah.
Tell me about D&D.
So one of the Maker Alliance members, whose name is Jared, he is from Canada. He's a very cool person. He DMs a, like, dip your toe in or go all in D&D campaign. I don't know when the first one started, but I intended on doing the month prior, but I couldn't because I forgot my computer and couldn't play. But this past time, so this month's campaign, I was here doing video stuff and just like, oh, I remembered, so I was bouncing back and forth between editing or rendering the video to be released the next day and trying to pay full attention to Dungeons & Dragons campaign. But it was very cool. He uses a platform called Roll20, and Roll20 allows a DM to like create a map and add a bunch of characters and things. And then there's another company called D&D Beyond, which allows you to manage and create, like through ironically, it looked like through a wizard, like a step-by-step process to create your D&D character. So then it formats it into a traditional-looking D&D character sheet, but it's interactive. And so there is a Chrome plugin between the two, so you can have one window open where it's the map, where he is guiding everything, and you can move your little avatar around as if it were like a miniature piece on a traditional map. And then you can use your character sheet to roll like you would with a traditional like D&D die. So they worked together, and it was pretty awesome. There was myself, and there were two other people in the campaign. One was, I forgot the name of the D&D race. Somebody at church told me the other day it was this anthropomorphic cat who liked to sing. It was a bard.
Meowsles?
I don't know.
That's from Fortnite.
His name was Felix. And then there was another character, and I don't remember what character he was. I think it was a rogue. But I was my character. I was Draxwick.
So Jared came up with characters already, and then you just got to be yours, or did
No, the
everybody
other
have
guys
to
had their
create-
character already.
Okay, gotcha.
So a traditional format of a D&D campaign, because I know you sat in on the one we did with Nicole and Turi from When Geeks Craft.
Just barely. Yeah.
So traditionally, the dungeon master is the lead storyteller, the architect of the story, and then the characters who are playing with their own unique characters are interacting with the story and helping to build the story as it goes along. You get to make complete independent choices, which this campaign was quite fun in that regard. And so it's an interactive story, and then you get to like fight and kill stuff, which is cool too.
This is a weird piece.
That is a very unique piece.
It has like it's a rounded square.
You can't
but then
make
it
Adidas
has-
without goofy pieces.
I guess so. Anyway, go ahead.
So traditionally, you start out in like a town or on the road. You have to have some agency, some reason to like do a thing. Somebody needs help and they're willing to pay you. There's a damsel in distress and you'll get gold. You know, some thing to do.
Impetus.
Yeah, and so usually you're in a tavern and there's like the crusty barkeep will like let you in on the secrets of the town, and you know that's where we started out. And so my character Draxwick, I came up with over the COVID lockdown whenever we were playing with the one time that we played with Nicole and Turi. Anthony's character's name is Dwigged.
Yep.
And Forby's character's name is Tony Shalhoub. I think is amazing.
I did not
The
know.
guy from Monk. His name is Tony Shalhoub.
I talked about Tony Shalhoub on Making It yesterday.
Did you really?
I did. That's really
Small
strange.
world. Tony Shalhoub is also on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and he is fantastic in that show.
I still have not started that show.
That guy is who I want to be when my kids are older. But anyway, I digress. So Draxwick is a Goliath fighter. So normally the characters are like people height, 5 to 6 foot. You get to kind of decide this. But a Goliath is like 8 foot tall. So he's like a massive person. And I modeled him after Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy with his like warrior but tortured past, and John Wick being a warrior with tortured past. Both of them are completely like, they're okay with you until you wrong them, and then they're going to scorch the earth.
I remember you guys coming up with these characters. We were in the car driving to Workbench Con. Is that where it was?
Oh, yeah.
I was driving, and you guys were just like developing these stories.
Yeah.
I remember Josh being like, so he's like John Wick and Drax. I'll call him Drax.
Yeah, his name is Draxwick.
Oh, well, there you go.
Cool enough, like, mythical fantasy name,
Yeah,
Draxwick.
totally.
And so Draxwick and this cat and this other guy are like on this quest to there's a kingdom and they're importing avocados apparently, and that's a bad thing. And so there's an underground crime ring that's doing something with avocados. So you have to figure it out. And the whole time, I'm like, I think everybody is the bad guy. And I'm like super chill in the whole game. But so it goes through and like you're fighting and you roll. I don't know if people, we're getting deep into D&D now. Like you're just on a quest, kind of hanging out, talking. You go to like the armory to go like buy some stuff.
Yeah.
And Jared did a great job. He was pretending to be like a teenage shopkeeper and speaking like a teenage shopkeeper who's like, you need this axe. And it was so cool and just so silly and kind of fun. But it got really good. So you have little mini battles against these guys. You go into certain caves, or you go into castles, or you go into dungeons, properly named. So there's this guy who was in like the town guard who was going to be escorting us and helping us try to find the bad guy. So he captures who we think is the bad guy. And I got a little feeling, but I don't think this is right. Something about this doesn't add up. And so we go back to the king to like deliver who the bad guy is. And I'm like, that's not the bad guy. And so I try to convince the king that the guy is trying to like take his kingdom and he's staging a coup. And the king is like, hold on, what now? And the guy's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, yeah, that guy's trying to get your throne there. Think you should kill him. And so he escapes, and it turns out like that guy is the bad guy, and so we got to go hunt him down. So we find him, we track him down to this like underground thing, and there's like the big bad guy who captured the prince, and then there's like a woman in the corner who's trying to like look after the prince, and so like we got to go after the big bad. So I go up and like, you're all rolling dice, so you have an intention, you have part of the story, but the dice will decide whether you actually get to do the thing or not. So like my Goliath character and his mighty battle axe, it's been like cleaving people in two. I go up and like try to smash this dude and like roll a 4, something stupid out of like 20.
Yeah.
And so he like smites me pretty good. So then you get healed and all this. And so I go to like, I'm ready to lay the hurting on this guy. And I stop. I'm like, and I throw a dagger at the woman across the room, stab her in her face. And the other two guys are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got a feeling, and this is a story, so whatever, there's no stakes. So I'm like, I throw a dagger at the woman. There's something about this. Random women in D&D are probably going to turn out to kill me. Hell hath no fury. So I'm like, stab her in the face. So I throw this dagger, and the whole story gets kind of crazy, and I end up like, nope, every chance I get, I'm not going to kill the bad guy. I'm going to stab this woman to death. And so she dies, and then we eventually kill the guy. And he's like, okay, well, congratulations, the prince is saved. And he goes back to the thing. I'm like, tell me about that woman. He's like, okay, the woman was the big bad's like wife or girlfriend or whatever. And if you would have killed the big bad, she would have turned into this like level whatever mage and just like magic smited everybody, and it was going to eventually kill somebody in the room. He's like, but you sniffed it out. I'm like, I don't trust it. I don't trust anybody.
And to be clear, this is a game.
It's a game.
Where
This is
he
all
threw
story.
a knife
This
at a
is
woman's
silly.
face.
My silly mythical
Yeah.
character smited a silly mythical subtle character. But it was fun. Like, I didn't really know the other two guys that were playing.
Yeah.
But when I did that, I could hear an audible like, what? What are you doing? Like, what? What? Going rogue.
That's funny. So, Forby told me about this podcast called Adventure Zone, and I think I mentioned it to you.
I've listened to a couple.
Have you?
Yeah.
So it's got some crass stuff in it, and I listened to a few episodes and then kind of lost interest. But it was helpful to just hear the process of a game.
Yeah.
And just to hear the kind of, and they even throw in some of their own goofy mechanics and stuff. You know, their checks for things that aren't actually checkable and stuff. But
I do that with the kids whenever we play.
yeah,
You throw in a
I
random,
could see that
like,
being
you're getting
really
too
fun.
chatty, you're getting too whatever. I'm like, roll for little no.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not allowed to speak anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun way to just to hear the process of the game. I mean, without having to, invest in sitting down for several hours and playing. Just kind of listen to it in the car here and there. So
Well,
what, are
Jared
you, what are
is-
you working on here? What are you about
Sorry,
to open
I'm
up?
opening up a castle, ironically.
Ah,
But Jared is really good because there's a lot of people that have an interest but have no experience.
yeah.
And so the whole time, like, I've played a few times. And so, like, while we're doing this, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, it means this and this. I'm like, oh, okay, I got you now.
Yeah.
So when you start off, like we were level 1 characters, we didn't have any weapons or anything. So in the story, you go get that stuff. So you can start on a completely fresh slate. And it was in the middle of a campaign, but D&D is kind of cool because you go on like segmented quests within an overarching story. So even if you pick up in like the third, whatever part of the campaign, there may have been some stuff that happened in the past, but sometimes it's reflective, but it's all depending on the dungeon master. Like,
Right.
and he's really accommodating to brand new people. He was helping people, I think the day prior or a couple hours prior in the Discord chat, like develop their characters. And the way we were doing it when we were going to Atlanta, like you mentioned, is that Dungeons and Dragons has a series of books, and so you can be a whole bunch of different mythical characters, but each one of them have certain characteristics and traits and qualities, and you can be, a half bird, but you're like, my half bird is a sneaky person, or my half bird likes to play music, or my half bird likes to, have magic or whatever. And so it's this like series of textbooks that if you choose these things, you flip back to chapter 4 and you pick something from there and you write it in this column, and then you roll this thing and you write that in that little thing. And so the D&D Beyond, if you're just interested in creating a character or thinking about doing it, it's kind of fun because you can just be whoever you want to be. It's a story. And it guides you through that process, so you don't have to go flipping through volumes of text to try to figure out, like, can I have a cantrip? Like, what is a cantrip?
Yeah.
Like, so
I might do that because that was the character creation was the block for me. I started it and then it was just like, now here's a bunch of numbers you have to understand how to figure out, and I'm like, I don't have time for this.
yeah, it's like 2 textbooks that you have to flip through chapters to be able to reference, and then it's like once you come up with all of these things, then you write these numbers on your character sheet, and then you show up with your character sheet and barely remember how you got to those numbers. You just like trust the numbers.
Yeah.
And there's like different roles. So whenever you like start a fight, like a battle, like with bad guys, you do this thing called rolling for initiative. Is you pretty much roll for your turn order. And then you can move, you can have an action, and then there's something else. There's like 3 different things to
Something
like
else.
your move. I don't remember what it was.
Got it.
But like your character will say how far you can move, and each little segment on the map is like 5 feet or whatever. And so my character can move, like you can move 30 feet, and some characters are more nimble and can move farther. And so you can move to attack, and then you can attack based on what weapons you have. And then if you're a certain level or a certain type of character, you can have a bonus attack. And so when I was in the story, like I went to the armory thing and talked to the teenage character girl. I got an axe and I got this dagger that when you throw it, it like magically comes back and reappears in your hand.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I could have a melee weapon up close that had pretty strong damage, and I was a Goliath, so it adds like extra bonus points depending on who you are. So if you're like a halfling and you have a massive battle axe, you can swing it, but you're not going to have the same kind of strength behind it as you would these other things. And that's all in the character development. And if you use the D&D Beyond, it really helps walk you through that process so you don't have to just blindly, where you're not bogged down in the text or the reference material.
So when you played with the kids, did they develop their own characters? Or
No.
Did you? Okay.
So when I played with the kids, I played with the starter pack. And the starter pack has the quest called the Mines of Phandelver.
Right.
And with the starter pack comes with pre-populated character sheets. So
Okay.
it's really easy. And so the kids all sat down, and I just kind of shuffled them and passed them out.
Gotcha.
And so the characters that, like, my son, your 2 sons, and some of their other friends, like, the characters that they are, completely random.
Yeah.
But they've taken onus of their character, and they're quite proud of it.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that was one of the things with our family is, we've talked about the 6 of us playing together.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot of fun because of the age variation and just interest of different things and stuff. But getting set up, again, is just the thing that seems, because I haven't really done it, that seems overwhelming. And especially for 6 people. And for kids who are not willing to do it on their own or wouldn't know how to do it on their own. Like, I can't guide them through it because I've never done it.
Yeah.
So,
So that's where the pre-populated sheets were really good, is I wanted to take that entire, like, just preloading of work and just get rid of it.
yeah.
And that way I didn't have to have, like, everybody wants to be a wizard or everybody wants to be a whatever, and your quest is pretty
get
one-sided.
something. Yeah.
This is who you're going to be. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Take it on. Your oldest son is a dwarf.
Yeah.
What is your middle son? I don't remember what he was. He
We've
may
got-
be a rogue.
We've got that that starter pack. So
So the same sheets are in there.
yeah.
Um, My
Shuffle them differently for our campaign.
or let them be the same people. Because I bought miniatures when we were somewhere that are out on the gaming table that we made for all of our kids. I got one for your daughter because I heard that she wanted to play too.
Yeah.
So I think your middle son is a rogue. My son is a wizard whose name is Dwight Schrute. Anthony rubbed off on him. So, and it was fun. Like I had never DM'd. I only watched Nicole do that. And so I'm like, well, it's telling a story. Like taking all of the stuff away, you're telling and building an interactive story. So the way that I did it was absolutely not according to the Dungeon Master's Guide, but I did my reference and I had pages tabbed because I knew in the story, like, all right, there's goblins are going to attack, and then a bogbear is going to attack. These like random monsters, and all their stats and stuff are in the back of this reference guide.
Yeah.
So I tabbed them beforehand. I told, I looked on their sheets, I knew what they had. And with the first couple campaigns, I knew that they are just getting started as well.
Yeah.
And so when the time started to drag, I'm like, okay, boom, you're going to be attacked. And then we did the roll for initiative, and then they would make decisions. And it has on your sheet, like you have an armor class. So depending on what race or character you are, and then what armor you choose to buy and wear, you have an armor class. So those are like your hearts. Mm-hmm. And then, or no, that's not your hearts. Your hearts are your hit points. So if I was going to fight you, I would roll, and if that number on the dice is higher than your armor class, then my attack hit you.
Yeah.
If not, it didn't hit. I
damage.
he slipped on the ground, or the axe was too heavy. And then you roll for damage to see how many of those hearts and your hit points to get taken away. So in the campaign, my hit points got emptied pretty hard. A couple of ours did.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But and the bad guys all have the same thing. So they have an armor class and they have hit points, and that's in the reference guide in the back. So if I was going to take my big battle axe and try to hit this small goblin, and I rolled a 4, I'm like, I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah.
And then if you make up characters, you can decide all that stuff ahead of time. But most of the games are published in guides, and so you can do like a one-off game where someone can create it from scratch, or you can do pre-populated games that have all of the monsters and the story and all that stuff pretty much built into it, and you just kind of follow along with the narrative.
Yeah.
So you're just facilitating this pre-populated story in the most like captivating kind of way possible. You do this and you do that, and it adds to it. Like when we played Dungeon, like the kids, I guess, version of Dungeons and Dragons that you and I talked about, I do that with the kids, and they all want to read. They all want to be the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
So like if my daughter walks into the room, my oldest son's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna be the whatever," and so he like, bleh, bleh, like lurks around the table, like makes a werewolf kind of noise, and so it's fun, and it breaks down like the embarrassing wall.
Yeah, right.
Because I think, like, as a kid, I always thought that it was kind of neat, but it was nerdy. And then watching somebody talk about it or do it, I'm like, oh, well, you just, like, kind of sound like an idiot. But, like, it's fine to sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. And if everybody is sounding like the same kind of idiot, then you're forming, like, a deeper bond than, like, playing baseball next to somebody.
I think one of the reasons that I want to do it with our kids is because the older two they're in middle school. The third one is going into middle school next year, which is crazy to me. But they're right at that threshold of, like, do I need to start caring about if I'm cool or not? Like, they're right there. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that, like, my daughter still, when she's home, she still will talk to me about Star Wars, and she gets excited about Marvel stuff and whatever. But then when she's with her friends, when she's in a different setting, I can see that stuff is, like, she's like, pushing it back a little bit. She's not changing who she is, but I can tell that she's at that point where she's trying to figure out, like, is it okay for me to like this stuff even though these other people around me don't really like it or aren't into it? And so one of the reasons I want to play is to take one of those things that she's shown interest in and show her what you just said, that it's okay. It's okay to, like, be really goofy about, being some monster or being some whatever. In this context, like, you can do a totally different thing right here than you do at school. Like, you don't have to be that way there. You can be this way here, and you can be interested in that over there, and all of those things can coexist within a person. Because I've always been a little bit afraid that the peer pressure thing would end up getting to the kids, not because of who the kids are. I think they're very strong.
I mean, it's going to get to everybody.
It's going to get to everybody, right? But I'm afraid of that point when I see it happen, and so I've always tried to, like, encourage my daughter to, like, it's okay for you to still like toys. You know, you're
Yeah.
in middle school. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And eventually, you will not probably like them as much. So like them as long as you can. That kind of a,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you see that there's a thing that her peers are interested in, or that she has kind of like the thing that's not the Star Wars, the stuff that is at the house? Do you see that what the other thing is? Is it creeping in?
Not specifically. I mean, there's no thing that she talks about that other people are into that she's trying to figure out. But I've noticed that, you know, over the last year or so, she takes longer to get dressed. She cares more about what she's wearing. She doesn't really like the pants that she has because they don't look like this. She, for Christmas, asked for a pair of Nikes that were like $150. And I'm like, baby, they're shoes.
You gotta talk.
No.
Talk to
Yeah,
Megan.
yeah. Well, it's not about that. It's like just trying to get her to like, it's okay to want clothes because
Yeah.
you like clothes. That's fine. But the balance of like, do you want it because everybody else has it, or do you want it because you really like the way it looks?
Oh, middle school.
Because I'm there. Like
Yeah.
this shirt that I'm wearing is expensive for what this shirt is, but I love this brand. I feel
Yeah.
comfortable in them. I like the way they look, and I'm willing to do that whether anybody else in the world likes it or not. You know, and so I don't want to like stifle them. Like, you just get the cheap thing because that's what we do.
Going to Kmart's not around anymore, so
Yeah.
kids have a saving grace.
So that's not the point. But
Is Amazon Basics the new Kmart?
I guess it kind of is.
I mean, I got this shirt off the internet, and it has nothing on it.
Yeah.
But I like it. I don't. I'd probably get made fun of as a kid for not wearing. I had to draw it on.
Yeah, it doesn't have like a Reebok logo
Yeah.
on it or something.
Crudely draw it with a Sharpie so no one sees it.
But she's not. There's no thing that I can tell that I know of. I mean, you know, their school life is a totally different life, and no matter how much
Yeah.
we ask them about it, there's still a big disconnect between what they hear, see, do at school and what we hear about it at home. So I don't know if there's a specific thing, but I can just tell that she's more aware of what other people are doing relative to what she's into and stuff. And
Because that's one of the strange things about having homeschool kids, is that their peer group are a group of hermits. So it's like a collection of hermits that get together, and there's no societal pressure to fit into a thing.
yeah.
They're all just kind of excited about the same stuff, and like it's a mixed gender class. So like my son, there's girls and there's girls like he's kind of interested in, and then there's like his friends. So he has the same type of interaction with people, but I guess the draw to conform in a certain way is not as strong, because I don't think any of them have really been around that
Right.
pressure. Like, it's not peer pressure. It's just like the shared peer interest. Or if they have an interest, they go, okay, well, I like this thing. And then they can talk about different stuff and not feel any kind of anxiety about not conforming.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that in that setting, the group dynamic is the minimal and the singular dynamic is the maximal. Like, they spend
Right.
more time by themselves than they do
Exactly.
in a group, whereas my kids, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I could see there being advantage or disadvantage to both of those things. But
I don't know if my kids have the social consciousness enough to be aware that there are people that would like make fun of you for a thing. I don't think that they care or would register other people's like interaction in that kind of way.
well, I mean, and my kids haven't up until as they get older, that happens more and more. So I think you'll see that in your kids, whether they're around people a lot or not. It's just their awareness of what other people think. It matures like everything else matures, I guess, you know?
As you said that, my oldest son is annoyed at church because all of the boys in the middle school boys like church group are all talking about like basketball, and they're talking about sports, and it's something he just particularly doesn't care about. He likes to read and likes to play music. And so rather than like, and I imagine myself in that instance, I like to do all kinds of stuff as a kid. So when certain toys became out of style, it was because like a sport took over, and like this was the chapter in life. It was like roller hockey is awesome right now, and then roller hockey gets taken over by like taekwondo, and then that gets taken over by so and so. And so in that environment, he doesn't see the potential value to wonder if it would be interesting to try it out. There's no like gateway drug type thing for him. He's like, I don't care about that. It's very annoying, and I don't want to go because all they're doing is sitting around talking about something I have no interest in. So rather than trying to conform or thinking about conforming, he just like shuts out that group and just doesn't care. And I wonder how long that's going to be around.
Well, so what was the thing for you? Was there a social draw as you moved between those things? Was there a social draw that pulled you, like exposed you to them? Was like, did you have a friend that played hockey? That,
Yeah,
like,
and it was. And I guess that's where I differ from my experience from what he's talking about right now. I could use that as an opportunity to learn about something else and open up a whole new avenue to where he goes, I'm not interested in that. I don't care. And goes back and defaults to what he likes. So like roller hockey, yeah, it was a friend of mine that he played roller hockey in the Junior Olympics. And I was like, well, that seems really fun. And like I played baseball as a kid. So like I played sports, but I had never played hockey before growing up in Florida. I'm like, that's dope. I want to do that. And then we did that for a while. And then another friend of mine did taekwondo. And I'm like, that sounds cool. Let's try that. And I guess for my parents, it could be really, potentially really frustrating that I would like quit something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I just like, ugh, it got hard and I want to quit. Like something else captured my attention and I wanted to put that passion toward that thing now. Not that I was just like, I don't want to go play. Like, oh, I want to go play that. And I want to do that. And I want to do that. And this one in particular, my oldest son, he's like, no, I just like what I like. And he defaults. I mean, which is, well, whatever. But it's interesting that looking at middle school in two different lights, looking at peer pressure being like a bad thing that you kind of want to train your kids to be resilient against. But at the same time, peer pressure could lead them into an avenue that they may not have ever expressed interest in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's
peer. I mean, we were talking about this the other day in some context. I don't remember, but peer pressure in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's when it leads you to a bad thing is when it's bad, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, peer pressure to like, hey, everybody else is really going to care about this test and we're all going to work hard because it's on a curve. And like, if we all do it and you screw it up because you're not going to study, that's bad for everybody or whatever. So in and of itself, it's not a bad thing. And I think it could lead any of the kids into something good. But, the reason I was asking about a friend leading you into something is because maybe I don't know, but maybe with him, those kids talking about those things, there's two separations, the thing itself and the kids. Maybe he doesn't know any of those kids well enough to trust that what they're talking about could have value.
Yeah.
And so, maybe it's a matter of finding a person that he's already close to that does something different or that could introduce him to something new and vice versa. Like he could maybe introduce them to something that he's interested in as well. One of those kind of things rather than being drug along in the like, well, everybody else is playing basketball, so you should try it too. Because that doesn't work. Yeah. My oldest is the same way. He will not play soccer anymore, even though everybody else plays soccer and we have lots of soccer and he has every opportunity and he has coaches asking him to be on the teams and all this stuff. He just won't do it. He's just not into it because he wants to sit on the couch and read a book.
Yeah, that's my son. Wants to sit in his cave, his underground cave, reading books.
And so there has to be, and we're still trying to figure this out with him, there has to be a way that we can get something sparked in him to be active. Like, I don't care what the sport is. I don't care if it's a personal sport or a team sport or whatever.
Yeah.
I want him to be healthy and I want him to be outside.
Right.
I want him to enjoy stuff that he doesn't make himself do that he will enjoy, right? And so we're trying to figure out what that thing is, if it's a person that he can connect with, that he can share one of those things with, or a group, or a time of year, or there's got to be something that he can go like, oh, I love springtime. Springtime means riding my bike more, or whatever, I'm trying to figure that out. But then with like the quitting thing or moving on from stuff, my daughter's that way. She can I hope she's not listening to this. She can do everything. She can do it well. She can't do it all because she just physically does not have time.
Right.
And so we've had to talk to her about, if you want to move from this thing to this next thing, she's like, well, I don't want to quit. And I'm like, that doesn't mean you're quitting. That's what you were saying. You're moving to something. You're not necessarily
It's projecting
moving.
you.
Yeah. Like you're moving up and you're growing into something else. And that's not the same as quitting because you don't want to do it anymore. And so we've had to try to like console her in that way because she feels bad. She's like, well, I just want to keep doing it all. I'm like, yeah, but the thing that you're trying to move into, you're not going to do as well. You're not going to enjoy it as much. You're going to be tired. You're going to do whatever if you don't let go of something and replace it with this new thing. And so as she's going into next year, she made pretty big decision to, like, she did band this year, and she's great at it, but she's not going to do it anymore.
Band is pretty, like, all-inclusive.
Well, in middle school, it's not too bad.
Oh, I thought...
High school is when it gets, with marching band, when it gets, like, it's like a full-time job.
You know, marching band in middle school? My middle school
no.
did.
You can march with the high school if they ask you to, but...
I guess with our high school, it was football and band were, like, the things that people did.
Oh.
And if you did anything that was outside of football and band, you were, like, on the fringe. Yeah.
Yeah, I marched with the high school when I was in 8th grade, and it was a lot to, like, have to leave one school, go to the other school for practice and stuff, but not really be a part of that school. And I was kind of like, I was younger and whatever. Anyway, so she decided going into this next year that she's not going to do band. She's not going to do chorus anymore, even though she loves to sing and she wants to sing. But I was trying to talk to her about it, and I'm like, well, you know, these things are good. They teach you a lot of stuff, whether you're going to play clarinet for the rest of your life or not.
Yeah.
Whatever. But you're learning a lot about music in that setting and how to play with other people and all these things.
There's a lot of discipline in it.
Yeah. And so her reasoning, which I thought was really cool, was I don't want to do chorus anymore because I'm not learning anything vocally. I'm just learning songs.
Oh, you're not perfecting the craft.
Yeah, I'm
You're
like,
just
so
exercising.
you want to be a better singer, not sing in a group. She was like, yeah. Okay, cool. We can get you lessons.
Yep.
That's a focus on the thing that you actually want to do.
That's a really mature point to make, rather than just like, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, what about band? She said, well, I want to write my own music. I want to play music, and I can't sing and play clarinet at the same time. I'm like, all right.
That's true.
Okay.
Kazoo.
Unless you could.
Get her a kazoo, because it's kind of both.
It is. Yeah. I should do that. See if the band director will let you play kazoo next year.
You get her a guitar with a talk box.
Ooh. So that was a valid enough reason for me to say, like, okay, you're still gonna take piano as long as you're in my house. You're taking piano. Like, kids don't get out of that. It's a life skill that I think does everybody good, and she loves it and she's great at it. She's not gonna quit that anyway. But so she's got piano going forward to teach her music. She wants to get voice lessons. The high school actually has a guitar class.
That's cool.
Yeah, you can take a guitar class in high school for credit.
I don't know anything about no guitar.
So she's going to take that whenever she gets there. But in the meantime, you know, we're just going to try to maybe get her lessons, or I'll show her some stuff to get started or whatever. But it's been interesting because she's at a transitional point where she's like having to pick classes for next year. She's already started thinking about, well, if I take this next year, then what's my high school going to look like? And she's thinking really far into like, well, my senior year, I have to be able to take this thing. So I'm like, slow down.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to figure this out.
Find something you think is cool.
Yeah. I'm like, just enjoy this year. When you get in high school, then you can start thinking about the end of high school.
Yeah.
But you're not there yet. Don't overthink this and don't overplan it. She's making great decisions. But the transition is picking those classes for next year. She's also moving away from one sport to move into another sport. She's also, like I was saying, like being more aware of like friends and the social stuff within.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on right there. It's funny because
these are formative years, man.
yeah, in a way that I don't remember. I just remember it being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I don't remember all of these.
It was
these
awkward.
details.
Yeah, in hindsight. I'm
it was
pretty sure.
weird.
I'm pretty sure if you could go back and like dissect all those awkward moments, like they were surrounded by things that
Probably.
were formative. But I want to go back to something that you talked about. You talked about your daughter interested in playing the guitar and that you would show her some stuff. Do you think for you that would be a kickstart to you playing guitar again? You playing with her?
I don't think so.
Because I say that my middle son, who is 7 or 8. My two youngest kids are like a year apart, and I don't remember which one's which.
In the future, when this episode comes out, they will have no context
They
as
were.
to how old they were.
He
right
is
now.
a certain age. He's between 7 and 8. Has been taking guitar lessons, and he's really good. But he's playing a 3-string tenor guitar, and his teacher was like, "We're going into this new set of books, and he's ready to step up to a 6-string guitar." I'm like, "Dope!" I have a full-size Martin Dreadnought that like eats the boy when he
bigger
tries to
than
put
him,
it on
yeah.
his lap. I set it on him last night to see if it was even an option. It's absolutely not.
I can just picture him like you setting on his lap, and then he just like falls over backwards.
His head, like,
Bong.
I could see his head and like half of his neck, and his little hands were trying to go all the way out
Oh, yeah.
to try to play like an A minor. He was trying to play an A minor. He was like, I can't see the frets. But he's really good, relative for his age. And his teacher's like, he's doing fantastic. Like his ability to memorize notes and just remember where they are, she's like, is pretty great. And so he wanted to play guitar with me last night because he needed to practice. I'm like, absolutely. So we go down to the office, and I've got my acoustic guitar, I've got my bass, and I've got a bass amp, and he has his little 3-string, and he was just going to like practice some of the chords. And his Loog guitar is made by a company called Loog. It's a 3-string tenor guitar that has a built-in amp, and it has like a little bit of built-in distortion. So he likes to rock out and do the distortion. And he's been listening to music with my older son lately. And I was like, oh, we need to tune it. I was like, well, let me have your guitar, and I'll just plug it into the amp because I have a tuner pedal. And I did that, and like I took the tuner off, and he still had the distortion on his guitar. And so it just like rang out distortion through my big bass amp. He was like, what? That was awesome. And he's never heard his guitar actually amplified except through the little like tweeter speaker that's in like the body of his guitar. He's like, that is great. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is what we're doing now. And so he's practicing. He's like, this is an E minor, and this is an A minor, and this is a C. I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, can we put those together? I'm like, what do you mean you put them together? He's like I could play like all three. I'm like, yeah. You mean a song? You just write a song right now. Let's write a song. So he's playing it, and he's strumming, and I'm helping him with some rhythm. And then, in a 4-measure song, I'm like, all right, well, what else? There's one more. Pick a chord. I was like, do you want to do the E minor again? He's like, I like G. Can we do G? I'm like, this kid. Yeah, you can do G. So he's like,
Do we have enough G for me to play it?
He wrote a song, and he's just like playing along with it. And then I pick up my acoustic guitar, and I'm playing with him because I have all 6 strings, so I'm adding a little bit of bass to the song. He's like, I like the way that sounds. And at one point, I was like, oh, yeah, you have distortion because I turned it off earlier. I'm like, you have distortion. Let's play this through 2 times. And on the 3rd time, you just, boom, you hit the distortion. He was like, that is awesome. And so he stands, I like move the chair, and he stands up in my little office with his little guitar plugged into the amp. And he's just like playing along, and I'm trying to help him with a strumming pattern because he's still pretty rigid. That kid hit that distortion, and he's like, like wrung out. And his little face lit up like it was the coolest thing. And I was like, awesome. You felt it in your chest. And he was like, yes. I'm like, passion. Yeah. There's my kids, at least this one, has a passion for something that he is learning. Like, he loves math, and he does really good at school. But I was like, my older son loves to read, but it's a very like introverted kind of passion.
Yeah.
You can't express, like, while someone is reading a book, unless they're just like a very animated person, like what they're feeling. And so like seeing my kid be excited about a thing that he just learned is a wild experience for me. And so he's like, I want to be a rock star. I'm like, okay, let's do it. We're going to watch a whole lot of Behind the Musics first, but
let's save for rehab now.
But just, it reminded me when I was in middle school and like wanting to be in a band, and just like that act of playing music. Because my older son is learning how to play the drums, and he's doing a good job. And I'm like, well, is there a song that you like that you want to play on the drums? He was like, not really. I'm like, whoa, that doesn't compute. Because every time I would hear a song, I'm like, I want to play that. I want to figure out how to do it so I can have what I feel inside, like, just let it out on my own. And he was like, nah. And we'll listen to a song. I'm like, you hear this drum line. This drum line is pretty dope. You should listen to it. And he was like, that's pretty good.
What drove him to want to play drums?
Don't know. Huh. He was playing the piano. He got super bored with the piano. He was doing like the kids' books. So like your kids have progressed a whole lot faster than the piano teacher that my kids use. I dropped my phone. So, I mean, it's not fair to anybody to compare them to other people. But like being at your house all the time, I could hear your kids upstairs playing. And then I hear my kids playing, and they're doing a good job. He's just not playing the level that they're playing. And I'm like, can we get him out of like the kids' books and into something, more challenging? I don't feel like he's being challenged, and he gets bored when he's not challenged, and he was. So we're like, well, as part of your curriculum as a homeschooler, you have to play music. Like, I can give you the freedom to learn or to choose whatever instrument you want, but you're going to learn music, something. Yeah. And he landed on drums. We're like, I don't know why. But in my mind, I've always wanted to learn how to play the drums because I love hearing drums, and I want to bash on the drums.
Yeah.
Like, I want to let that passion out. And he plays. He wants to be like technically good at what he's doing. He wants to receive a good job, you did it, not to just like let the passion flow. And so my middle son, like watching him write this song and hit some distortion really hard and let it shake, like I could see it was the passion that he had for a thing coming out, not that he technically played the song correct.
Yeah.
And like got 5 stars on Guitar Hero. Like he was able to express himself, and I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
Because something I don't normally get to see. And like he was done, and we were gonna go play Minecraft together, but I'm like, you gotta play that song more. I was like, I can play my bass with you. He's like, yes, you can do that. And my older son, he's like, you can play the drums. I'm like, yeah, you can play the drums. He was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I think he has a fear of performing in front of people. I'm like, that would be pretty cool if you could just do that. But I would have to convince him. It's not
You'd have
the
to
passion
convince him
pouring
that
out.
it's practice, not performance. That,
Maybe.
like, with you all, it's just us. It's just the family in the basement or whatever. It's
It's like, you have to practice on that side of the wall, and we're going to practice on this side of the wall, but we're not together.
we're gonna leave the door open.
You're going to do what you're going to do. We're going to do what we're going to do. And if it just happens to merge together, it's not my fault.
That's awesome. My second oldest son, he's the third kid, you're talking about piano. He has taken. They've all done well with piano, and they've all grown quickly and way faster than I did when I was taking at their age. Same teacher too, which is wild.
That's fun.
But he has kind of taken off faster than the rest of them, and I don't know why, but he is really good. And so the other day, this has happened a couple of times lately. He'll get a new song, and I remember getting new songs from this teacher, and I would like go home and practice it for a week, and then I would go back, and she would tell me all the things that I had practiced incorrectly, and then I would have to go back and, it would take me a few weeks to really get, and these are simple songs. This is not like really complex stuff. And it would take me a few weeks to be able to get the song to sound correct at the right timing and all that stuff. He gets a song on whatever day he gets lessons on Monday, I think. He comes home Monday night and he sits down with the piano, even though he doesn't have to. He had a lesson. He doesn't have to practice. And he'll sit down and he'll play it, and it'll all be wrong, and he'll come ask me, can you help me with the rhythm on this part? And I'll explain something to him. And then he'll just keep playing it. And then the next day he has the song. He gets it really quickly. And he's always, that first time he practices it, he's like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. This is all new to me. And he acts like I'm never going to be able to get this thing. And then something clicks, and then he gets the song. And so he gets new songs every week because
Wow.
I mean, they overlap.
Yeah.
But he'll get
still.
a new song, the next week. And so yesterday, same thing happened. He had a lesson, or day before yesterday. He had a lesson and was practicing something. He asked me if I could help him. I was helping another kid with something else, and I said, yeah, give me a few minutes. I'll come in there. And so he keeps playing. And I go in maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, and I sit down next to him on the bench, and I'm waiting for him to be done and ask me about this problem. And he finishes the song. I'm like, all right, which part were you having problems with? He's like, oh, I got it.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if you need anything,
This still
let
counts
me
as me
know.
helping you, by the way.
Yeah. It was really cool, though, because, he didn't have that I can't do it thing
Yep.
that he always seems to go through. He gets through it,
Yeah.
but this time he really buckled down and figured it out. And he's like the kid that he's always asking me physics questions and like chemical engineering questions, which I can't answer. My dad was a chemical engineer, so he answers them.
Ooh.
But he's always like looking into stuff deeper than the rest of them. And he moves between things quickly.
Yeah.
But he always has this kind of deeper look into stuff. So he's the only one that asks me about, what do songs from Rachmaninoff sound like? I'm like, well, let's show you some because you're probably not going to like them.
Yeah.
What are songs from this person like? And so he's asking me about all these different composers. And like the other day, he was like, so and this is all random. This is not like in the context of a musical conversation. He's just like, we'll walk up and be like, who's your favorite composer? I'm like, well, probably Chopin, I think. Yeah, me too. Yeah. I mean, I kind of liked Beethoven, but then, he's like,
Bach is pretty contrived.
it's
if you
all
really
kind of
think
the
about it.
same. And like Chopin, he just has like a really interesting, it's not the passion type thing that you're talking about playing music. He doesn't play music like that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's classical music. You don't really have that so much. But he has a deeper interest. Like he wants to know another level deeper on all this stuff than the rest of the kids do. So I'm trying to figure out how to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
He was talking to you about Rubik's Cubes.
Yep.
And ever since then,
He wanted me to tell him how to solve a Rubik's Cube, like
just to tell it to him.
as we were sitting down
Yeah.
before dinner. I'm like, well, it's gonna take a minute. He's like, well, I have a 2x2. Explain to me on this one. I'm like, well, it's not the same thing. He's like, well, just tell it to me. I'm like, this will make no sense to any human being. He's like, no, just tell it to me. I'm like,
So yesterday he did the same thing. He was like, so I want to go buy a Rubik's Cube. And I'm like, dude, I have like 4 of them. And I've given them to you all. They are floating around in your piles of toys
really?
somewhere. Like, I don't even know where they are anymore.
Yeah.
Go find one. So he goes to look for a cube, and then I go to find the instructions. So I've got the little booklet that comes with it that has all the moves in it.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, once you find one, everything you need to know is right here. So you read this first, and then I'll show you what they actually mean with the cube in front of you. And he couldn't find the cube at all. So he's sitting there at the table reading the instructions without a Rubik's Cube in front of him going, I don't understand what this means. And I'm like, yep, I told you.
And that's I was
Like-
trying to explain to him. I'm like, I'll hold an imaginary one in my hand,
Yeah.
and
just- it's not the
this,
same
and so I see him do his hands
Yeah.
in the same way that I'm doing my hands. I was like, in your head, you have a cube in your hand, which is cool, but they need to be colorful, or this
Yeah,
makes no
it
sense.
doesn't- Yeah. So he's like wanting to go deeper on stuff like that. He's wanting to understand it. but
That's really
without
good,
The thing
though.
in front of him, he's kind of stuck. So I got to find him a cube. I don't know where mine went because I had
I've
several.
got 2 at the house, and my kids find them, and they think it's funny to just mess them all up. And I'm like, it's fine. You're not gonna make
Yeah.
me mad. Or they're like, I'm gonna really mess this one up. I'm like, I'm not one of those kids that can like look at it and then like do it in 3 seconds. Like it's a chapter story for me. So if you move one side, and I mean I can move that one side back, but you move a couple, I have to start the whole thing all over again regardless. And so that's my rote memorization of that entire process is the chapter story. Make the thing and then make the thing and then make the thing. But the passion that you're talking about, the passion or just like that passion to want to know more about a thing is really interesting to see coming out in all of our kids. And like even my son loving to read, when I talked about D&D, he had no idea what it was. And he has a passion for it. Like he wants to do it all the time. When we made that table, he's like, so we're going to go have D&D night tomorrow, right? Like that fast. I was like, well, I mean, and his drum instructor is a dungeon master who wants to come do a one-off for all of us.
We should just schedule that so we don't
We
keep
really
talking about
should.
it.
So it's passion, but it's passion directed differently.
Yeah.
And I think trying to figure out where that passion is for each one of the kids and then fostering that, even though it's something that I might not have interest in, which something for me that is challenging.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to play guitar with my middle son because I see that he has passion in it and it's something that I enjoy doing. And like when I go play, I play bass in the church, we'll have rehearsals on Thursdays and the boys will come with me. And my daughter has dance class and she'll go with my wife. So we have a boys and a girls night and we'll go get dinner. And so the boys are in the sanctuary and I'm like getting everything set up. And so my middle son, who's learning the guitar, is like, Dad, can I help you set up? I'm like, yeah, come on up here. And so we're looking at all the instruments and Megan's husband, Mike, leads the band. And so he has a smaller scale guitar. It's not as big as my Dreadnought. So I picked that one up and my son was looking at it. He's like, well, this was smaller than yours. I was like, yeah. I was like, it's almost your size. And then he was telling me about a parlor guitar, which I didn't know much about a parlor guitar. So I think that's kind of the route we're going to go. They make parlor basses. It's the most adorable little bass.
Is it like a 3/4 scale?
It's smaller than a 3/4 scale.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's super cute. I'm going to get one and put it here. So I was looking on Guitar Center, because there's a Guitar Center in Louisville, and I'm like, we're going to have a date. And we're going to Guitar Center, and maybe this will be the first time in my life I will actually buy something from Guitar Center.
Oh.
Maybe.
I bought cables from there before.
I got some picks, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I want to introduce him to a guitar store because
Oh, man.
he doesn't know what a guitar store is.
That guitar room is gonna melt his brain.
Yeah,
He's gonna walk in
I
like,
want him
"What?"
to walk in and just like, Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was telling me that I was talking about a parlor guitar. And I was like, it's something that you can probably play at your size, but then you can scale up and it's still appropriate to have a guitar that size. It's not like buy a kid's guitar and then in a couple of years you need to get another one and get another one. But I was telling him about it. He's like, okay, so we're going to go tomorrow? I'm like, no, we're probably not going to go tomorrow, man. He's like, but I need to have it for next week. And she said I have to have a 6-string for next week. Like, well, it might not be next week because this is like a $250 guitar. He's like,
yeah.
what? It's that much? I was like, this is the cheapest possible parlor guitar I could find. It's not on Amazon. I was like, oh boy, you have no concept of how much instruments cost.
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to be bad for you.
Speaking of instruments, just not to take away from talking about your son, but my son I was talking about piano. Did I tell you he's going to play flute?
No?
Yeah. We would.
Jazz flute?
Yeah, jazz flute.
Jazz flute?
So we actually showed him a bunch of jazz flute videos, and he was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And I'm like, "You're not going to be playing this, just so you know."
This is awesome.
And the Anchorman clip was
Yep.
like on the thing, and they were like, "Hey, that's Will Ferrell. Can we watch that one?" I'm like, "No, that's not."
Flutes can
realistic."
spit fire?
But yeah, so we had because he's going into middle school. That's when band starts, and so they had the night where you go and you try out all the instruments and whatever. And he said ahead of time that he wanted to play flute, and I'm like, well, I mean, okay.
Is this the pink jacket thing is running through your head right now?
No,
Oh,
not really. It was more of I think you're going to be interested in it, but you're not really going to want to stick with it because you're going to be surrounded by probably women or girls in your class, and I think eventually that's going to make you realize that all the other boys did something different. Now, this is me ahead of time thinking this. But I'm like, hey, if you want to play flute, it's an instrument. Awesome.
Sure.
I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. I've never played it because I've always been scared of it. It seems really, really hard to me. So we go to the thing, and he tries out the flute, and he totally had the right position. And the guy's holding the flute and rolling it on their mouth to get it in the right place so that it'll actually voice. Totally did it. And I'm like, well, do you want to try anything else while we're here? Not trying to convince him otherwise, but like maybe there's
play the field a little bit.
there
There's
might be something else that
cooler.
you like
Yeah,
too.
right.
So he tried sax, got a beautiful tone right out of that.
That's not easy to do.
I'm like, well, why don't you play sax? Like that's a broader instrument. You could use it for it has a bigger range. It has whatever. He's like, I don't know. It's not that.
Play jazz sax too.
I got him to try trombone, thinking like this is fun. Like trombone
The
always
dudes
seemed really
in band
cool.
always really like out of everybody who looks like they're having a good time, the trombone guys always look like they were having
It's
fun
the most active, like
when no one else looked like they were having fun.
Yeah.
They looked like they were playing a song, but trombone dudes looked like they were enjoying themselves.
I got him to try that. He wasn't into it. I mean, he didn't like dislike it, but he was just kind of like, I don't know. And he looked back over the flute, and he's like, I really want to play flute. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
So that time in middle school, when you meet with like the band director as a kid, I wanted to play the saxophone. Like I had been to the White House all those times, and Bill Clinton was the president, and he was like playing a saxophone on TV, and people thought he was dope. He was on Arsenio Hall playing saxophone. I'm like, I want to be on Arsenio Hall playing saxophone.
And the president.
And I remember one time at the White House, I went into, they had a room that was kind of like a music room, I guess, but it only had a few instruments and they had a saxophone. And I was like, I want to play a saxophone. It looks cool. He looked cool. Everybody enjoyed him playing it. And I was like, yep, I want to play the saxophone. He's like, all right, let me see your teeth. And I showed him my teeth. And he was like, okay, how about the drums? I was like, and I remember as a kid, I'm like, what the?
Let me see your teeth is
Like-
great.
Okay, like my teeth are not that jacked up, like butthole. But then I was like, okay, well, he's like, what about percussion? Then he had me like playing rhythm with my hands and my feet doing different beats. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, percussion is what's up. You should play that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play the drums. And then we got in there, and it's like a sliver of that pie was devoted to drums.
Oh yeah.
And I guess my expectations weren't set. But yeah, I originally wanted to play the saxophone, which if I had played the saxophone, I would have been in the same saxophone class as my now wife. But Forby played the saxophone, right?
Yeah, and so did Anthony.
Man,
A bunch of saxers around here.
Saxons.
Anyway, we've been recording for an hour.
It's about that time.
Yeah. Got anything else?
No, I'll start this castle next week because there's a bunch of bags, and I don't want to have to do that right in the middle of a meaningful conversation.
I finished the shoe in about 10 seconds, so
Time.
there we go. Cool. Well, where can people find you on the internet?
You look on Instagram at Josh_make stuff. It's right there on the screen.
Oh, yeah. And you can find all of us at I Like to Make Stuff on all of this stuff. And I think that's it. We didn't talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got to talk about that because I'm interested in about.
Just in the teaser trailer?
Well, yeah, just expectations for the show. I'm curious what you think it's going to cover.
He better fight Darth Maul.
He's not.
What?
He's already dead.
This is going back in time, though.
It's after that.
What?
Yeah.
No.
No.
He's not
No,
white
no,
hair.
no,
No,
it's
he's
not.
not.
You're right. You're right. No, but
This needs to be the third iteration
it's
of
bef-
us seeing this one fight.
it's before Maul dies, but also before Maul figures out where Obi-Wan is. So it couldn't be him. Unless it's on a different planet, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, we'll talk about
They
that
have
in a
to try to make him not look like a creepy stalker in this movie. That's essentially what he's doing.
He's a protector.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
But
talk
there's a
about it.
fine
We'll talk about it
line
next time.
to display that.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.